Hello. Alright, so we're gonna start episode 9.
Making a Murderer's ninth episode opens with Stephen Avery's defense attorney, Jerome Buting, making yet another claim that his client was framed.
Well, if they framed Stephen Avery, the question is Brendan's case a whole charade too? I mean, that's ultimately going to be the question. Is his jury going to believe that he confessed to a crime he never even committed, a murder he never committed?
This is the toughest question for both Dassey and the series to answer. Why would he confess to a murder he didn't commit?
Okay. Regarding that, there's a lot of information on why a teenage kid might confess to a crime they didn't commit, especially a murder. I'm going to read something from thepsychreport.com. This is an interview with Saul Kassin, Kassin. He's a psychology professor at John Bay College of Criminal Justice and Williams College. Someone who's researched false confessions for over 30 years. He says, that is in some ways the ultimate question, because it is the most counterintuitive behavior, I think, that people can conceive of. Over the years, I've found lay people have an easier time understanding why someone would kill themselves. They understand suicide and the motivations for it more than they do why someone would confess to a crime he did not commit. The reason why people confess to crimes they did not commit is because they are subject to pressures of interrogation, a highly aggressive form of social influence. In the interrogation, especially in American-style interrogation, people can become so stressed and so broken down that they start to feel so hopeless about their current situation that they come to believe in a rational way a confession is in their best interest. In some cases, they get so confused by the fact that American police are permitted to lie about evidence, and I mean lie about DNA, prints, surveillance footage, polygraph results, that in some cases people accused of crimes, particularly kids and others who are limited intellectually, become so confused by the lies that they actually come to believe that they have committed this crime they did not commit. They wonder why they can't recall it. They are led to believe that it's possible for people to transgress without awareness, for people to do something so terrible and repress it. So they develop basically an inference that they must have committed this crime. This is definitely something that happened to Brendan. Later, hopefully today, I'm going to do a video going over Brendan's psychology exam, or psychological examination, the results of that, and why he was highly susceptible, influenced. He had every sign of this. Not to mention another video that I want to do about the read technique that these detectives used against Brendan, where they are specifically told not to lie to a minor, not to lie to someone who is intellectually disadvantaged, which Brendan was both of those, and they did lie. They did all the things that they're not supposed to do when interrogating him. So that, I think, is a very good reason why Brendan would, confess or be influenced to add these things to his story. And, like I said, we'll go into that later.
Murder that he claims never happened at all, because, of course, of the conspiracy against his uncle Stephen, which culminated in his murder conviction because of a jury that really wanted to acquit but was browbeaten into a guilty verdict by 2 or 3 jurors who were biased for the prosecution. This was the allegation of Richard Mahler, an Avery juror who was dismissed 4 hours into deliberations.
Okay, according to Richard Mahler, that is exactly what happened. And now, not only do we have his word on that, we have interviews done with some of those jurors who admit that this is basically what happened. There were several people who were unwilling to, I guess, even just consider the possibility that that Stephen or Brendan could be innocent because of that confession. Now, in Stephen's trial, that's a big no-no. They were not supposed to be considering that information at all because it was not brought up in Stephen's trial. It's not something that they were supposed to be considering. So the fact that they did take Brendan's confession into consideration when they were deliberating on Stephen's guilt or innocence, or guilt or not guilt, that's a big no-no. Now, from what I understand, there's going to be some sort of investigation into that, what happened back there with the jury. So we'll see,
At the end of episode 8 of Making a Murderer. Where do we find him at the beginning of episode 9? Why, smoking a cigarette outside of Brendan Dassey's trial with Brendan Dassey's mother and talking about how innocent Brendan Dassey is.
Yeah, I know.
There's no DNA evidence to prove that he was in the trailer. There's no evidence of hers in Stephen's trailer.
Right.
There's no DNA evidence.
So Mahler is attending Dassey's trial with Dassey's family, but is held up as a neutral observer of jury deliberations in Avery's trial.
Okay, first of all, he's not at Avery's trial anymore. He's at Brendan's trial now. And for someone who listened to the whole trial at Stephen's trial, he listened to all the evidence. He had all the same exact things to consider that the other jurors did. Just because he was dismissed at the end of the first day for a family emergency does not mean that he doesn't have all the information available to make a decision. He had already made a decision that he believed the state did not prove their case against Stephen. He was ready to vote not guilty, along with, the other 6 people who originally were ready to vote not guilty right at the beginning of deliberations. The fact that he believed that Stephen was innocent obviously would logically mean that Brendan probably is innocent also. And I'm sure that because the jury in Stephen's case came back with a guilty, he's probably pretty concerned that they're going to come back with a guilty on Brendan as well. So yeah, I'm sure he did have some interest in going to see Brendan's trial. And by the way, he wasn't the only one. He's just the only one that spoke on camera, just so you know.
Okay, then.
This is Brendan Dassey's trial, not Stephen's trial. It's about a 16-year-old high school student with below average cognitive abilities, a 4th grade reading level. It's about a shy introvert, socially inept, suggestible child.
This, of course, would mean that he would also be suggestible when his uncle was telling him to rape a woman he had chained up on his bed. But forget that for a moment. He was apparently only suggestible while he was being interrogated.
Okay, no. If Stephen did have Teresa tied up to the bed, and if Stephen did push Brendan to rape her or cut her or do anything to help him get rid of the body or hide the evidence, yes, Brendan is highly suggestible, and yes, he could have very well been influenced by Stephen to do these things. But there is zero, okay, not 1, 0 evidence that ever happened. There was no rape. She was not tied to the bed. She was never in the trailer. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even know how you can even be in the garage without having some sort of DNA left somewhere if you are being shot in that garage. I mean, it's not like she was just standing around for 5 minutes. She was shot and transported, and come on. There should be something there, and there's just not, besides a bullet fragment with, some of her DNA on it. That didn't come from blood, which is, I don't trust it. I think that's definitely something that should be questioned. And yeah, because it didn't happen, I am really surprised how anyone could lean more towards a confession that can't be backed up by any actual evidence you're going by someone's word who's changed their story however many times. Every single time he was questioned, they got him to add more to his story. But if you listen to his original story, the one he keeps trying to tell every time he talks to somebody, it hasn't changed. It's the same story. He tells the same story. They just keep forcing him to add more shit to it. And it's, yeah, I'm sorry. I believe that a lot more than I believe that something happened that has no physical evidence to back it up.
Learn that Brendan will meet 2 highly trained, intelligent adult police officers. Times they cozy up to Brendan to get the answer they want. At times they pull back from Brendan when he's not giving them the answer they want and they expect. It's like a new puppy dog.
Now, one would think that Making a Murderer would spend a considerable amount of time showing long stretches of this interrogation to show in agonizing, excruciating detail just how these 2 interrogators cajoled and coerced Dassey into falsely confessing. But it doesn't.
Okay, you want to know why it doesn't? Because we're talking about like 4.5 hours of video just from March 1st. Just from March 1st, okay? That's a long time to add to a 10-hour documentary. And if you really want to know what's in that 4.5 hour long interrogation, there's a lot of silence from Brendan. That's what there is. There's a lot of the detectives doing a lot of the talking and a lot of Brendan going, mm-hmm, no, yeah, but mostly silence from Brendan. Brendan hardly says more than 1 or 2 words at a time. That's why. Who can sit through that, in a 10-hour documentary? Nobody's going to do it. But people like me who want to know everything that was in there, I have not only watched just the March 1st video all the way through, all the way, including the almost hour where Brendan is sitting alone in the room. He's eating a sandwich. He's sitting there looking at the clock, wondering, you can tell, wondering if he's going to make it back to school in time to turn in his project for 6 hours. He's still thinking he's going to leave, okay? And that, who's going to watch that? People like me. Not people in a documentary. They're not going to sit and watch Brendan sit on a couch and do nothing. So that's why that's not all in there. Like I said, the questions, the silence, they're having trouble getting him to talk because he doesn't know what to say.
Instead, an on-screen graphic informs viewers that jurors watched the first 3 hours and 24 minutes of Dassey's confession, but not the final hour and 38 minutes, which show Dassey telling his mother that investigators got into his head. Making a Murderer also doesn't show the conversation with his mother in which Dassey tells her that Avery made him do a lot of things, including at one point, sexual touching.
Okay, first of all, that's something else. That's from a phone conversation. The very end of this video, the interrogation video, there is quite a long amount of time where Brendan is, the detectives come back in, they search him. This is after his mom comes in. His mom comes in, and I guess she has been told outside the room that Brendan's confessed to helping Stephen. She's crying, she's upset. They are not showing this to the jury. I don't know why. I think they should have. I do, because I think that the jury should have seen that. They should have seen how Brendan was reacting when his mom came into the room. He just had his head down. He looked like he might have been crying a little bit. He didn't want to talk. He would not speak to her. She's crying. She's holding on to him. She's asking him, Brendan, tell me what happened. What did you do? Whatever. And he won't say a word. He doesn't say a word until both of the detectives leave the room. And then he starts to talk to her. Then he starts to open up and tell her that she asked him, did you do it? And he said, not really. And when he says not really, he doesn't mean a little bit. I did a little bit, but I didn't really, do a lot of stuff that I said I did. When he says not really, what he's actually trying to say is he didn't really do those things that he just told them. And his explanation for that was that they got into his head. He asks her what will happen if Stephen's story is different than his. He's worried about that. And I don't know if this guy's going to get into it or not. I don't remember, but he's not worried that Stephen is going to be mad at him for telling on him. He's worried that he's going to get in trouble for lying. He's going to get in trouble because Stephen's story is different than his. He's going to get in trouble for lying to the police. Which he just did. He obviously knows. He just lied to them. But it's funny, the moment, like I said, the moment they walk back in the room, he shuts down again. He puts his head back down. He's done talking again. He doesn't say another word. Not another word. Nothing. He doesn't want to talk in front of them. They've already pushed him to that point where he did something, and now he is aware that he's going to go to jail. And even though he asked them for a day or what, and they said, no, we don't know at this point. Obviously, they're full of shit. They know very well that he's done. He's done. He's screwed. He's not going to come out of jail, not in a day. And he still has no idea what he's done. He just knows that he's going to go to jail, which sucks because he, from what I understand, had planned a date, I guess, with the new girlfriend or something that he was upset that he was going to miss. And he asked if he could call her to let her know. He had no idea still that hey, I'm going to be in jail for the night. I'm not going to be able to make it. Maybe we can hook up tomorrow and hang out or something, Anyway.
Dassey tells his mother that Avery touched him and one of his female cousins inappropriately. This is significant because it both suggests that Avery was in fact capable of forcing himself sexually on other human beings, and that, as Dassey's abuser, Avery might have been able to control his very suggestible nephew and...
Okay, well, I'm going to pause him real quick because I forgot to get into that. Like I said, that touching business came in a phone call later on to Brendan's mom after the day that he had... Oh, my papers are over there. After his interview with Mike O'Kelly, the next day he had met with Fossbender and Wiegert again and been told that Brendan wanted to talk to them. Brendan didn't want to talk to them. Len Kaczynski and Michael Kelly wanted Brendan to talk to them. He didn't want to talk to them. He didn't ask to talk to them. But at the end of this interview, they're trying to tell him, well, what's your mom going to say? You need to tell your mom that you need to tell her the truth. You need to tell her the truth that you were involved in this because she is basically crawling up our ass all the time asking us what we did to you and giving us trouble, right? Yeah, I can totally see Barb. Mama Bear, what the hell did you do to my son to get him to say those things? Because at the time, of course, she hadn't seen, no one had seen the interrogation videos. They didn't know. But she knows her son well enough to know that he wouldn't admit to doing something he didn't do unless they did something to really push him. She's not stupid. She's not that stupid. She knows her son. And he's telling her that he didn't really do these things. So they're telling him, we're going to tell your mom. We're going to tell your mom that you told us that you did it. We're going to tell your mom. You better tell her before we do. We're going to call her tonight. So that's what he had to do. He was told to go back to his cell or whatever after this interview and call his mom and tell her all these things, including Stephen touched him, which I don't believe, because when you look into Stephen's psychological exam, it says that there is no history of sexual abuse at all or molestation at all. So I believe that that's just another made up part of this whole story that they gave Brendan to tell. And they needed to get Barb off their backs. They needed her cooperation. They said this in, I believe it's episode 10. They do actually say, I want to say it's Wiegert, but I'm not sure. Wiegert or Fossbender, one of them, says that they needed Barb's cooperation. That she was calling them half the time, she was on their side and trying to help them, and the other half she's freaking out on him. You know, could you blame her? She doesn't know what the hell's going on. She doesn't know what to believe. So yeah, they wanted to get Barb off their ass, and they used Brendan to do that. And also, everything he said in that conversation, they knew damn well would be recorded and used against him in court, where he is admitting to his mother that he did these things. Do you think that they didn't know that? They did that intentionally. That was on purpose that they did that, knowing that he's going to call his mom and say he did this stuff. Hearing him tell his mother that he did this stuff is going to come out at his trial, and it's going to fuck him, and it did. And they knew it.
Say, easily convince him to rape a woman he was holding in his bedroom. And it's also significant that making a murderer doesn't show large stretches of the confession, because it's clear that someone as dumb and immature as Dassey wouldn't have been able to make up such a detailed description of a rape and murder that never took place.
All right, Guy, first of all, you really need to stop disrespecting these guys and calling them dumb. You know, there's a difference between someone who is disadvantaged, intellectually disadvantaged, or disabled, and dumb. All right? He isn't dumb. He reads a lot, and he's not dumb. So yeah, he's got information. He can make up things pretty easily from the books he's read, from all the information that the officer's feeding him. Yeah, it's not that hard to do. And, you know, I'm actually really offended that you're calling him dumb, because, like I said before, I look at Brendan and I see my youngest son, who's, you know, just 14, but that just makes me furious. So, first of all, you watch your mouth. Don't call him dumb. He's a kid. Very suggestible, influenced, very accommodating. Like I said, we're going to go over this in another video. But, you know, he is not dumb. All right, so just don't go there. My cat wants to be involved still.
He asked me if I wanted the girl and if I wanted to try it. I said that I ain't old enough to have a kid yet, so he said, yeah, do you want to try it though? Like, not right now. He just kept on egging me on.
Okay, and did he say anything else to you when he was egging you on? How did he egg you on?
He's like, come on, try it for me.
And had you been back in the bedroom area yet at this time, or no?
No.
Tell me again what he told you was back there. Who or what?
That Teresa Hallbach was back there. That she was on the bed naked she was chained up to the bed.
Could you hear her back there yet?
Yeah.
And what kind of things was she saying again?
Like, help me and not to tell Steven not to do this anymore.
Did Steven say that he had already done that or not?
Yeah.
What did he say he did to her?
That he had sex with her.
How did he say it?
That he her.
Eventually, Dassey says that he gives in to his uncle and has sex with Hallbach too. Remember, he is highly suggestible, right? But here, the interrogators aren't suggesting anything to him. With very little prompting at all, Brendan is providing significant details about something that, if he really is as dumb as his defense makes him out to be, he wouldn't be able to simply invent.
Then you said,
Okay, hold on. I want you to remember that this is not the first interrogation that they've had with Brendan. Okay? This is the third that has been recorded. There's been more, just so you know, alright? This, and if you listen to the whole thing, what did he make you do to her? What did he make you do, Brendan? What did he say? What did? Okay, you miss all that, apparently, because they were making him make up more stuff. And if you really want to believe all of Brendan's confessions, then you would have to believe that, I don't know how to say this, Nasty Kratz and his big dramatic scene of Brendan's 43-year-old sweaty uncle answers the door half dressed, and he follows his 43-year-old sweaty uncle down the sweaty hall, and he sweat everywhere because he's been raping Teresa. Like, he's been raping the shit out of Teresa, and that he's so sweaty from doing this. But now you just heard Brendan say that he didn't even go in the room when he first got there. He didn't go in the room until Stephen pushed him to go back there. And, you know, which one do you believe? If you're going to believe Brendan's story, you can't, because it changes. It changes depending on what they need him to say. And please stop calling him dumb. I mean, his defense did not call him dumb. Never.
that he went and got a gun, right?
Yeah.
And he came back in. What did he do?
He shot her 10 times.
Tell me where he shot her.
Like in the head and some, in the belly and stomach.
How many times did he shoot her in the head?
Like 3 times.
Tell me where in the head. What size?
Like the left side, I think it was.
The left side of her head. And when he shot her in the body, where in the body again?
Like here.
Okay. What was he saying when he was doing this, if anything? What was his demeanor? Was he calm? What was he doing?
He was calm.
What was he saying to you?
That he was sorry for me to see that stuff.
Again, Dassey provides unsolicited details that are corroborated by physical evidence.
Alright, I'm going to stop you right there. Mr. Unsolicited Details. Okay? Apparently you did not go into... You didn't bother watching the interrogation. Who gave him the information that he was shot? They did. He never offered that information, ever. Now, once they've offered him that information and asked him who shot her, then he says he did, Stephen did. And now they want to know how many times did he shoot her. Now Brendan's got to make up a number. Now he's got to make up where did he shoot her. Yeah, he's making this shit up as he goes along because they fed him information that she was shot. And like I said, the biggest thing, you don't feed that information to somebody. You don't do that. That is very clear in their Read manual, their Read training. You don't feed that one piece of information that's withheld from the media. Nobody else knows. Nobody but the killer would know this. And the detectives. They fed it to him. They fucked it up. Too bad. Anyway, I'm going to end this because it's, getting long. And we'll see you for the next half.